Welcome to the Bayonet's Countdown to November, a series of interviews with the candidates in the November 4th election. I'm Marty Madden, and with us for this segment is George Owings. He's a Democrat seeking an at-large seat on the board of Calvert County Commissioners. And he's running in a field of other candidates for 2 at-large seats. George, welcome.
Marty, it's nice to be here with you today. Thank you for this opportunity.
We're in the presence of a political legend.
I don't know about that.
Tell us why you've chosen to run for county commissioner.
When I thought about this opportunity, there were many things that crossed my mind, not the least of which is I have 2 grandchildren now in school. One is in the 3rd grade, the other will be entering the 1st grade very shortly. And when I look at what's going on in the school system specifically, I have great concern. And the only way you can impact some things is to get involved, as you know I have done for the last 30 years. Specifically, we have a major drug problem, not only in the county, but in the state and in the country. We've gone from smoking to pills to mainlining, or whatever they call this stuff. I want it to end. I want it to cease. Not be abated. I want it to go away forever. Sheriff's Department's doing a good job. The state police are doing a good job. The drug enforcement people are doing a good job. But the job is still being done. The job should be over. Additionally, the state has this tendency, and I was part of it for years. I have an in-depth knowledge of how it works. At the state level, we tend now and then to force things down on the counties. Not always sending the money, but we seem to be able to have a knack for pushing things down on the counties. One of those things is this thing called Common Core. I am opposed to this initiative. It's mandated, it's a requirement that's down. There's not a whole lot you could do with it or about it at the local level, but I am opposed to it. I believe that while we may all be created equal and have every opportunity, there are those of us who are ahead of some more of us, if you understand what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
And thank goodness for that. I would not want, don't take this the wrong way, but I would not want you treating me for Ebola. You're good at news, but I don't want you to put yourself on the same plane as a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Common Core reaches to that level where math, language, the arts, everybody is equal going up the ladder. And I have a problem with those types of mandates. So, for those couple of reasons and several others, I decided to get involved.
Okay.
And here we are.
Well, now, what issues do you believe the next board is going to need to address?
Same issues we've been dealing with since I got there 70 years ago, almost 70 years ago, when I came along. You have growth, you have expansion, you have work, you have housing, you have old ways of life being replaced with new ways of life, and by that I mean tobacco fields are now gone. On the state emblem are 2 figures, a farmer and a waterman. And we've pretty much done our best to make sure both of those have, evaporated, if you will. The farming community in Calvert is still there, but they have been forced into other alternative crops and other measures. And there are other extenuating circumstances, again, put on the farmers. I'm not going to call them being tricked into something, it's just the way things evolved, and I'm talking specifically about land preservation and what they thought they were getting and what in fact they ended up getting. That's a whole nother story. The watermen have been assailed as well, and for better or for worse, you just can't take things away and not replace them adequately. So the same things that have been going on for the past 300 years in the county are still going on, and that's what needs to be addressed. The way of life as we move forward, making sure that the needs are met, and if there's anything left over, let's attend to some of the wants.
Well, we have a pretty big county budget, and what would Commissioner Owings set as his priorities for that budget?
A reduction in the budget, first of all. As you come along, you learn that there are givers and takers. And the older I get, the more I'm finding that there's a lot of mouthful of gimmies and a pocket full of much obliged out there. They want. But how do we go about paying for all of this? I understand now we're getting ready for another dog park. complete with plastic baggies and little tongies to pick up whatever the dogs leave in this second park. I think it's coming along.
Mhm.
Or maybe we already have two and they're looking for a third. There comes a point in time when you know, enough is enough. There's plenty of woods around still, but to create and to take off the tax map or tax rolls, prime land and turn it into a doggy walk park, I think is something that I'm gonna have trouble digesting, no pun intended with that. But, you know, let's look at the budget and why do we have to continue to explode every time we get a few extra dollars? The state never learned that trick. I mean, the state now has tens of millions of dollars as a direct result of the revenue from gambling, and yet we're still in the red. I don't understand it. I really don't. Didn't understand it when I was in Annapolis, don't understand it in Calvert County. But you're saying, what are the priorities with the budget? The first thing I want to do is take a look at why is it so big? And then go from there.
Mhm.
There are things that are happening that, give you a quick example. He won't get in trouble because they don't know who he is. There's a county employee who's getting a brand new truck. He said to me recently, George, I don't need a new truck. You ought to see what they want to give me. And I said, really? He said, yeah, what I have is fine. Well, you're asking about the budget, there's an example.
So if the budget is lighter, the taxpayer could probably lighten their share of
How
it.
about that? Isn't it funny how it works that way? But you're right. Yes, the load would be lessened on the taxpayer. I'm still trying to figure out something happened, and I asked Jerry Clark about it. Jerry explained it to me, but I'm still a little confused. I used to get a water bill every quarter, and it was $49.50 to include the Bay Restoration Fund, the BRF that Ehrlich put in, that O'Malley assailed, only to then turn around and double, and then raid, but that's neither here nor there, actually. And 10,000 gallons or less was $49.50. Well, all of a sudden, after 2 quarters, I get a bill for $73. Well, I didn't understand it. So I called down to the courthouse and I was told that, well, you now pay for every drop of water. I think that's pretty much a quote, every drop.
Mhm.
So my question was, so wait a minute, what happened to the $49.50 that I used to get to cover all of the 10,000 gallons? It was a small household now. And they said, well, this is the new charge. You pay for every drop of water. My question to that was, so if I turn off my water out at the road, I'm gonna get a bill for $49.50, which was the old original bill, without any water at all. And I was told, yes, that's correct. So as soon as I turn on the spigot, the meter begins to run. And I didn't understand what happened to the initial 10,000 gallons I got for the $49.50. It just kind of went away. Again, I'm gonna run into Jerry and have him explain it to me one more time, but he left me a little dazed and confused, quite honestly.
Do you believe there's true transparency in county government? And if you don't, what would you do to fix that situation?
Well, is there true transparency anywhere? And the answer to that is, of course, no. Are you on a need-to-know basis? If you're talking about homeland security, yes. If you're talking about other types of security, yes. Then there should be a limitation on transparency. You don't want to give the enemy the battle plans. The League of Women Voters just did a follow-up. In fact, you were there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been called a witch hunt in some circles, and it's been called a fine production of a document in other circles. And you know, it's the same old story, the pros and the cons. I've read it. I'm in the process of reading it a second time, and I did not find it offensive as some who are in office right now found it to be offensive. I just didn't find it that way. I addressed this with the newspaper, and I'm hoping they're gonna print it. My quote was that unless it's personnel or property or some proprietary involvement the county with, you know, you just can't give away. If you're doing a deal with a business, you can't give somebody else that is looking to do the same deal the information,
Mm-hmm.
the bidding war kind of thing. So there are certain things that until they are resolved, that you don't open the door to let the sun shine in. But the open meeting laws is very clear. And when you are not in executive session or something of that nature, then yeah, open the doors and let anybody and everybody come in and see what you're doing. After all, you work for the people, not the other way around.
Do you feel Maryland's jurisdictions are being handed too many unfunded mandates from the state? And what, in your opinion, does Calvert County need to do to assert its autonomy?
That's always been a problem because there is always the rural versus the urban, and that fight is historic. We in the rural areas drive the highways, we pay the gas tax, which in turn goes back up to the larger jurisdictions and have it pumped into the purple line, the green line, the red line, the blue line, string line, any line they can find to make or name. That's what they do. You know the story, you've covered it for years. The Transportation Trust Fund is an oxymoron. There's nothing trustful about it. It's rated by every governor, regardless of political affiliation. It's a pot of gold. It's a pot of money that has been used. But there is now a constitutional amendment coming up, as a matter of fact, this election, to lock it down, that it can only be used for certain things, roads, bridges, tunnels, things of that nature. But yes, mandates come down, and they come down disproportionately to the rural areas. And what can Calvert do about it? I should ask you what your opinion on what can they do about it happens to be. It's going to vary, but there's not a whole lot that counties can do. You hear that some have pushed back on the rain tax. I think it was Carroll County that pushed back.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they pushed back only to the extent that they're going to use their own funds to achieve the same thing that the mandate calls for. So they're not creating new taxes to address the impervious surfaces and the rain and everything that goes along with it. There's not a lot you can do when it comes down from on high, just like there's a lot you can't do about the federal government imposing on the states certain things. Requirements going all the way back to, clean air and clean water and all of those acts. There's not a lot you can do about it except comply.
Okay. George, we certainly wish you luck along the
Is that
campaign
it?
trail.
That's all I get? That's all the free time there is?
That's all the free time there is.
Well, I might have to go buy some then, Marty. Let me go ahead and buy some. I've enjoyed this, I really have. It's always a pleasure being with you, regardless of the setting.
Thank you, George.
Okay.
Thank you for joining us for this particular segment of Countdown to November.